So you've caught me painting the fourth house. The fourth house is a historic building in the historic district, and it happens to be the president's house. And part of our Fresh Coat initiative for 2021 is that all of the buildings that we operate, we're going to be freshening up a bit. And eventually, the staff is going to be helping paint as well. So I thought I'd get a head start. What I thought I'd do in this President's Update is kind of walk through the district and give you all some updates on which buildings we're painting, what are some of the restoration projects, and maybe even what are some of the chronic preservation issues that we deal with. So when you walk through the district, you might actually be able to notice all the hard work that the preservation crew puts in so that the historic district remains beautiful. The first building we've completed in our initiative is the historic Winkler bakery. We've done some repair work to the woodwork. We've scraped, primed, and repainted. We have some work to do on the historic sign that we'll be moving on next. In 2019, we repainted the interior. So this building is ready to reopen. We have a tentative reopening date of May 1st, and we are upping our production of baked goods. So keep an eye open on our social media because pretty soon the door is going to be open. Just repainting it sounds simple, but if you look at this north face, understand that everything that you see, the window sashes, the window jambs, the shutters, all of that had to be worked on. Then we pressure washed the building. So when you're walking around and you see this really beautiful building, understand that it takes multiple steps with multiple energy. Not a lot of people understand the cost to just maintain a historic building. Just the exterior cosmetics of the Winkler bakery are costing us anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000. That includes all of the paint prep, the paint itself, the labor, as well as any of the wood restoration, and then the pressure washing on the bottom. So every building that we move to, you can generally think that that's around how much money we're spending. You know, the goal is to make the district appear as it has always appeared. But you know, that's a really costly thing, and it's actually really labor intensive. One of the questions that I've been getting a lot is, well, why weren't you repainting the buildings in the past year when you've been closed? And I'm kneeling at a spot that kind of explains it. As many of you know, the city of Winston-Salem has been doing really substantial street infrastructure work. And so all of that produced a lot of grit and grime and dust. Most of this work has been completed. They're now on the north end of the district. So even though there's a little bit of work still happening, we feel pretty secure that the paint and restoration work will not get damaged by all of the grit and the grime in the air. There are a lot of complicating issues when you're working on a historic building. One of the really favorite spots in the historic district is the back porch of Winkler. That's been fully painted and restored, as you can tell. It looks fantastic. But maybe what you can't tell is that we have a constant chronic problem with pigeons and birds nesting in the underside of the roof of the porch. It sounds kind of silly, except that those pigeons and birds actually will go to the bathroom and it will fall on the paint surfaces that we just painted, and it will fall on the picnic tables. It's a health risk. So something that you might not even notice is that we're moving on getting this special preservation netting to put on the ceiling of the porch so that next time you come to enjoy your Winkler treats and you sit down, it's a clean surface. So our next stop is our famous Mitch house. Now, the Mitch house was last painted in, I think, 2011, but it has a chronic problem with the paint. The wood that was used for the restoration of the clapboards really doesn't take to paint well. This building was looking really badly. It really hasn't been that long, but because it's a chronic problem of restoration, we felt like we had to go in, do really significant prep work, prime the entire building, and then paint it. And so what we have are our painters behind me starting to put the first final coat on top of a primer coat. It looks pretty great. The painting is one of the more public visible things that we do in terms of restoration, and as part of our Fresh Coat initiative, it's really clear what that looks like. But if you look at things like this, we have failures on parts of the buildings throughout the district. For instance, this has got this bottom lath that has failed, and as you can tell, the handmade clay tiles are on the verge of falling off the roof. We have some failure up at the ridge piece as well, where one of the metal clips that holds the tile into place has failed and the tile fell off. So when you walk around and everything looks beautiful, understand it takes a lot of energy and a lot of work to keep these buildings looking this way. It not only takes a lot of labor, but it also takes a lot of money. These are the gates to our boys' school. The boys' school was restored about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, and these gates were designed exactly as the sketches show us from primary historic documents. Sounds great, except that being built in that way actually doesn't make them last for very long. As you can tell, we have broken this gate on this pivot at the top and the bottom, and the gate itself is bowed. So when it's closed, it actually kind of looks like this. Now, mind you, it's not that we used bad materials. In fact, we used materials that were approved by the Historic Resources Commission. The problem is when you really look down this oak piece, you can see that it is curving. So the whole gate, in the way it's made, is a chronic failure. I'm at the Bloom House now. It's right on Main Street. It's one of the houses that we own. If you walk by it, you see that it looks pretty rough. You can kind of rub your hands on the paint and it peels. The issue with the Bloom House is there's real structural issues with the building. When we pulled away the boards and saw the condition of the structure, it was pretty amazing. We're working on those first and trying to restore parts of the building that are necessary before we spend the $40,000 to strip the paint and repaint the building. As part of our Fresh Coat initiative, and because we're using the porch for a new program called Music on the Porch, we're going to be painting the front porch area. And as you can tell, it really needs it. And this is a chronic problem with the Tavern restaurant, is we keep painting it and it keeps peeling. I'm standing in front of the Museum of Early Southern Decorative Arts. It's a modern building. It has a chronic issue of water runoff from the roof, and it stains the sides. So even though we just pressure washed this building, took off all of these stains, you can see that already a week later we have the stains back. And if you look up at the fascia board, you can see that there are more stains that have returned. In the time that I've been here, in the last 5 years, we have looked at this twice, thinking that we have taken care of the problem, and clearly we haven't. This is part of our Fresh Coat initiative, not only pressure washing this, but figuring out once and for all why that staining is occurring. So now I'm at the log church reconstruction. As part of last year's planning process, we decided that we would produce preservation plans for all of the historic buildings. And one thing that we realized at the log church reconstruction, we had serious rot. So we're putting this at the top of the list in terms of our preservation plans, even though St. Philip's Log Church needs some paint on the porch. As you can tell, this is far more important. So even though it's not part of this initiative in 2021, it's certainly a top priority for us. This entire week, as part of our Fresh Coat initiative, our staff has put together this team, this jack of all trades team. And we're all gonna come to the fourth house, grab gallons of paint and paintbrushes, and start on the north end of the district and just start painting throughout the week. We're gonna be painting fences, street signs, light posts, railings, all those sorts of things that are really important to the historic district, really contributing factors to the environment, but they don't get a lot of TLC. Well, this week is our week for the staff to give our historic district a little bit of TLC. So if you see anybody with a paintbrush in their hand, say thank you. Bye-bye.